I'm Andrea, a passionate DEI advocate and consultant on a mission. Join me in each episode as we celebrate diversity, ignite conversations, and craft workplaces and educational institutions where everyone thrives. This podcast is my commitment to making a meaningful impact on the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So are you ready? Let's get Diversifused. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Get Diversifused podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Horton-Reachley, founder of Diversifuse DEI Consulting and a passionate DEI advocate and ally. This episode is all about crafting inclusive products and marketing strategies. My guest speaker today is Sharon Bushy. As a first-generation American with roots planted in the vibrant city of Los Angeles, Sharon embraced the spirit of entrepreneurship at the tender age of 18. Her business acumen blossomed amidst the golden rays of her hometown, where she not only launched her inaugural venture, but also diligently pursued her higher education, earning a bachelor's degree from CSUN, which I had to look up, and that is California State University at Northridge. When the unforeseen waves of the COVID-19 pandemic challenged her entrepreneurial endeavors, Sharon pivoted with resilience. She deepened her technical business insights at Syracuse University, where she completed an MBA program. Now, Sharon stands at the forefront of business marketing strategy, guiding leaders to enhance their revenue achievements. Her expertise allows these visionaries to realign their focus towards their passions. What's Sharon's ultimate aspiration? You may be wondering. It's to witness your business flourish under her strategic wing. So Sharon, welcome to Get Diversifused. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to have you. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, your story, and what prompted you at the age of 18, that's very rare, to become an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. So I mean, the truth is that after high school, I had no particular plans. I was actually going to enlist in the Army. That was my original plan. And I shared that information with my parents, and they said, absolutely not. There's not a chance that our youngest child is going to enlist in the Army. So I looked at plan B. And plan B for me was to embark on the opportunity of finding what is out in the market on my own. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. And so it seemed like the most natural decision for me to take. At 18, my brother and I opened up our own agency called the Bushy Marketing Agency, where we worked with small businesses in the US and in Israel to create go-to-market launches, product launches, brand strategies, community growth, and engagement. We were very heavy on working with brick and mortar shops that were converting onto e-commerce strategies. So this was an opportunity for us to look at how do you make that transition from in-person marketing to that digital marketing, and how to do it in a manner that is relevant and impactful to end consumers from different demographics. That is where I started at 18. Yeah, it was very exciting, lots of anxiety, lots of long nights, but it was a really beautiful way to learn that the secret behind marketing is community building. It's really understanding the person that you're talking to. And that was something that was very important for me, and important for me as I evolved in my career, because I realized that the success of a business comes from the consumer. If you don't understand what your consumer needs, if you don't validate your consumer's needs, then you will never be able to build a relationship with the consumer. You won't be able to build that loyalty, and you won't be able to build that community. And being first generation American, that was something that's very important for me, because we've seen across the board, especially this was 11 years ago. I just aged myself. It was 11 years ago, but we see that there's a lot of gaps in inclusivity when it comes to product development, product messaging. And so the opportunity to speak to consumers and to speak to business owners simultaneously really opened up my eyes and said, okay, we have a chance to make an impactful change and really offer products in a way that will feel like they're relevant to the customer. At the time when I started in marketing, it wasn't as consumer focused from a small business perspective. It was very much the company brand, the business owner's ideology. It wasn't the end consumer as much. From the customers that I had, there was an opportunity to start to pivot that. And it's just great. Yes, yes.
Wow,
We did that.
Oh, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no. We did that for about 3.5 years, and then my brother actually parted ways with the company because he wanted to go into music production. He's actually owns his own studio today called Room 2 Studios. A phenomenal entrepreneur himself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow. Super exciting.
That's so inspiring and just impactful. And I mean, at 18, I mean, yes, you are a first generation immigrant, but at 18, to realize that first, I mean, as you grew and work in the business, to realize that it's more about the consumer when it comes to success, than it is about the business itself, the business owners and everything. And getting business owners to realize that they need to serve, they need to identify who their customers are, their target markets are, and what their needs and wants and are, and like actively listen to their customers, is very I would, to me anyway, it's an advanced skill that you recognize that so early on, and that you helped organizations, small businesses recognize that too. And it's important for any size business, in my opinion, to listen to what your customers are, find out who your customers are, listen to them, and employ staff that reflects your customers, your customer demographics and base, because they are the ones that are going to be doing all the work. They are the ones that are from these communities that can identify with the customers, and better serve their needs, because they know as I said, they're from those communities and they have a better idea of what the customer wants and why. So that's just fascinating that you knew that so young.
It's so impactful. I mean, we know this more today. I think kind of jumping to what our current market presence is and market strategy is, we see that there's been a shift. The concept of the company is really a projection of the people that represent it. We see more of a conversation on influencer marketing, on affiliate marketing, on showing who is the person behind the scenes that's actually using this product. Yeah. Why are they using it, and what is that providing the customer, the consumer? So it took some time, I think, because it wasn't the forefront of marketing when I first started, but you see it across the board. It has nothing to do with the type of product, the pricing of the product. It doesn't have to do with the exclusivity of the product. It's just that principle is that the person who buys the product will inevitably decide whether or not this product is worth the general public's time. And now more than today, social media has provided that power to the consumer to be on the forefront of that conversation. Behind the scenes, we knew this, right? The hidden revenue goals of a company weren't something that easily accessible. Customers that were purchasing products couldn't see across the board the feedback that these products were receiving. Today, it's different. Today, we are seeing it across every single platform. The everyday Joe can go ahead, provide feedback. And if they do it in a way that's impactful, it could really shape a company's presence within the market, which is exciting, because I think that plays into a shift in conversation in DEI and product development, because companies are now have to be held accountable. They do, because the consumer is speaking more vocally about the needs to create that change for their experiences. Yeah,
I agree. And they are many customers, and more customers are not shy about putting their comments online, even on a emailing the company directly also, but putting their comments online. Glassdoor, former employees too, Amazon, they post videos of the products, of torn products. Look what I got in the mail today. This is, and I've contacted the company numerous times. No one's gotten back to me, or or I contacted the company, they replaced it right away. They were so apologetic. They sent another one free of charge, got it the next day, and it's great. They put an update or something like that. But it is so powerful because people look at the ratings of products and of companies, and they really, more and more customers are reading those reviews before they decide to even make a first purchase. So it's sort of like, to me, so I come from historically the nonprofit industry, and nonprofits have not much money for marketing, if any. So it's a lot of word of mouth and about your services, which for the most part for nonprofits are free, unless you're in the higher ed and things like that. But it's so important to have your customers feel valued and heard, and listen to and actually do something about it, instead of like, yeah, okay, thank you for your email, thank you for your comments, and filing it away. That's not gonna create customer loyalty. It's not going to create even, and if they're doing that to the customers, they're probably doing very similar things with their employees too, for suggestions for improvement and comments about different things. Not saying that it definitely happens, but it probably is, if those two things are aligned most often. So when people feel valued and heard, for the most, I wouldn't say for the most part, but you can actually charge a little more for a product when you have that excellent customer service, when you listen to the customers, when you have a decent product. It doesn't have to be the best product on the market, but if you're listening to customers' needs and everything, the chances of them continuing to purchase those products increase. And I'm thinking of more like, right now it popped in my head, the car industry. Like, people look at, well, what's the resale rate of this car? Are they efficient? Are they reliable? What are the different ratings? And I mean, there's people that are Honda people for life, Nissan people for life, Ford people. I mean, they have their makes and models that they love, and there's many people that only buy those types because of the customer service and just not necessarily it being the best product. But
I think that is such an important point to also think about, then going back to what the marketing strategy is and what the marketing presence is, right?
Yeah.
Because from a marketing standpoint, whether it be paid or organic, it takes more effort to convert a purchase than it is to retain it, right? So if you as a business have already managed to do your due diligence and to convert a consumer to be part of the community, to gain that brand loyalty, if you don't retain them, it's like taking 20 steps back. It is an inefficient process, and it really does touch on the fact that, like you said, what you need to give to that customer is that trust, that engagement, show them that you're listening to them, and that will not only enable you to retain them, but it could evolve to growing that market, because referrals are huge. People are loyal to their brands. They will talk about them. They will make them a part of their day-to-day life. And that means that they're going to build that awareness laterally to other and consumers.
That is true.
Absolutely.
That is true. Yeah. And it's the customer service is not just about the customer. Happy employees give better customer service than unhappy employees. And to have a happy employee, that means they're engaged employees. They're getting good customer service from their managers, their leaders. They're being heard and all. And so it's a domino effect.
Agreed.
Thank you. Because if it's toxic work environment, it's gonna reflect. The chances of it reflecting with the customers increase. because your employees are not going to be as productive. They're not going to want to come to work. They're going to just do the bare minimum to get by. They're not going to stay as long. You're not going to retain your employees to where it's constant retraining, rehiring, retraining, and gaps. Like, oh, we haven't filled that position yet, and so there's employ other team members that are taking on those additional tasks, and they're getting burned out. It's just a huge domino effect that organizations, more organizations are realizing, thank goodness, but not all organizations have realized that the effects of DEI initiatives in the workplace. Having DEI initiatives in the workplace just improve marketing strategy and your customer brand.
I agree 100%. And that's actually interesting because I recently onboarded a client. I would say about 6 weeks ago. I onboarded a client, a corporate client that touches on internal branding. So the concept of internal branding is the fact that you create brand awareness within your team. So within the different parts of your team, supply, marketing, operations, finance, across the board, you bring the teams in so that they start to not only learn about what the brand is, but they start to embrace the brand and the brand principles. And the reason why I was brought in was because there was a disconnect between the way that the teams were working and the values that the brand was sharing through their products. I signed an NDA, so I can't give a name, but I'm trying to, amazing. I'm trying to map it out. But there was a disconnect. There's a disconnect in the engagement. The tone of their communication didn't represent what the brand was. So it was almost like what their job wasn't related to that particular brand. So they brought me in and we started to create, first stage is education and second stage is actually activities where we invite certain members of the team to contribute to the thought process of activations that they're putting out on the market. Not just strictly to marketing, but going to operations, supply, doing creative activities and asking them, hey, what do you think about this idea? How do we bring the value of innovation to this activity? And by allowing the teams to engage, not only are we creating a foundation of inclusion and diversity because it's diverse perspective, but we're also creating a sort of culture where now there's a personal connection to these values. It's not just a principle that's printed on the website or in their onboarding. It is now a part of the everyday. And since we did that activity, so we did the education, did the activity, we've been running surveys to see how the worker satisfaction is, and it's increased by 15%. And we just started this program, which is really exciting to see, but also goes back to the success of a company, of a product, of its deliverables comes from the people themselves, the individuals. It's really exciting.
That sounds exciting. And and a lot of times that there's, when there is that gap in like what the teams understand or are doing and what is being the values and the mission and the commitments of the company are saying on the website and in their pamphlets and everything like that, marketing tools, that goes to like, okay, they probably weren't onboarded the best way when they first started, and when new initiatives, when the leaders started new initiatives, communication didn't trickle down appropriately. And to me, it's all about communication. People don't communicate the best way all the time. It's almost like that game, with that kids game, the cow jumped over the moon, and it's, you're in a circle with all the kids, and by the time it gets to the last person, whatever was the first person actually said, it's totally different.
Like broken telephone?
Yeah, broken telephone. I could not remember what it's called. Yes, broken telephone. It's I mean, and so it's just something that naturally happens because it happens as kids, and we don't, as humans, we don't fully hear and listen and comprehend things that are given to us. So there needs to be an active teaching approach and informational giving approach of initiatives, of values, of and there has to be there needs to be a two-way street of like, okay, because a lot of onboarding now is done online, you're just given a lot of
Mm-hmm.
links and everything. So who can they go to if they don't understand something? Who is accessible in the leadership, not necessarily their team, but in the
Mm-hmm.
leadership or in the human resources office or something like that, when someone doesn't understand a concept, not something that relates directly to their work, like they can physically do, not their skill set, but a concept of a value, or how is this reflected in the brand and things like. So I guess it would be more the marketing department of the HR department, but yeah, so it all comes down to communication. So with that, let's go to the questions that we prepared for today. So how
Okay.
can businesses ensure that their product development processes incorporate diverse perspectives to meet the needs of a varied customer base? How can they ensure that? And in addition to what you already mentioned with go ahead.
So I think I think there are a few steps that go into it.
Mhm.
From a business strategy standpoint, I think it's understanding the market opportunity of a product that you put out on the market. There are very saturated subcategories within different industries. I'll use CPG because that is one of my big focuses. The question
So
is,
what is
when you're
CPG?
thank you for asking. It's I forget that not everybody speaks in acronyms. CPG is consumer packaged goods, and CPG refers to anything that is consumed within a short time frame and replaced. So it could be food products, health and wellness products, clothing, things that are consumed by the end consumer.
Okay.
Yes. Um, and so the first step for an industry is to understand the relevance of a product. You're putting a product out on the market, ask why. Within your team, if you're not the CEO and you are a manager, you have to ask why, because putting out a product in the market just for the sake of having it there is not as effective as putting out a product on the market that gives value. Have you ever heard of Seth Godin?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So he wrote a book that I'm totally blanking on the title. I think it's called This Is Marketing.
Okay.
But he wrote a book and he was explaining this concept of innovation and impactful marketing strategies. And he was saying innovation is not the end all solution. And the reason why, I'm rephrasing, but
Yeah.
the reason why is because innovation is something that's easy to achieve today because there's so many resources that are readily available to the market. There are websites like Pietra that you can go on and literally build a brand from A to Z. You have supply up, operations up, everything there. So if you are chasing innovation, you are not going to succeed. If you are giving value, your company is going to succeed. And so going back to that question, the first thing you do is understand the value. The second stage is create a sufficient roadmap to achieve that value. One of the biggest issues that I've seen within certain product launches across the board for the last few years,
Mhm.
whether it be small to mid-sized businesses, is that they're rushing to put a product out. So they don't actually
Yeah.
take the time to understand where to implement that aspect of diversity, that aspect of inclusion, how
Mhm.
to build that data in a sufficient manner so that they can reach those timelines. Now, you might say to me, Sharon, but we have very limited timelines. I'm going to say to you, it makes more sense for you to take a step back, forfeit the rush to be the first one into the market,
Mhm.
and push to be the first one with that innovation. And a great
Yeah.
example for this is Rare Beauty. Selena Gomez launched Rare Beauty a few years ago. Not only does it have a fantastic mission statement, but the caps on the bottles are made for people with arthritis because that is something that she deals with. Yeah.
Yeah. She has
It's something that
not lupus.
she
She has
had a
lupus.
transplant. She had lupus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she had a transplant. So people who have transplant can deal with
Mhm.
inflammation. That is
Yeah.
something that could evolve into arthritis.
Mhm.
And so she and her team
That is
did bring a
awesome.
product on the market that's accessible. Now make that as a lateral benefit. You have people that
Mhm.
maybe are elder. They can use their bottles. It should be easier to open. People that might have been injured. I had an injury in my left wrist. I couldn't move this hand around for like 5 months.
Oh.
I couldn't do anything. Yes, which is a different story. But I did it. I used to teach I used to teach and train in self-defense, very fundamental,
Ooh.
but I got overexcited. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
um,
Oh.
so all in all, the structure is understand the opportunity, build a roadmap that enables you to find the value for the market, and acquire data. Data can be as simple as engaging with your end consumer. If you're a small business and you don't have the budget for Susie to build surveys, go to your end consumer, the people that have purchased from you, engage with them, ask them, what else could benefit you? What are you looking for? What is missing? Social listening. Use a variety of different platforms, or if you don't have the budget, listen to what consumers are saying to bigger brands, to your competitors. Where are they happy? Where are they not? Why? Invest the time to learn about your end consumer. You will find the data that you need to properly launch a product that represents multiple voices within your consumer market. That is my firm belief, because the value that you provide will be more effective than the newness that you're pushing out to the market. And that is not everybody's opinion, but I'm going to say that that is what I've seen to be most impactful within the industry. If you look at a company like Olaplex, for example, Olaplex had a huge backlash, but Olaplex is a great example of a company that selectively launched products that represented a specific innovation to reach the market. So they didn't launch every other day. They launched very particular products under a very particular mission that's effective. You take that principle, apply it to DEI, and you'll be able to get that same sentiment, those same results, because you're investing in the solution that you're trying to give your community.
Oh, I love that. I just see how passionate you are about this topic with marketing and inclusive marketing and strategies. And it's but yeah, I agree with everything you said, actually. And from my DEI perspective, and I never heard that. I never knew that Selena Gomez actually launched a beauty product. But that is just wonderful that she made it accessible containers for individuals with arthritis and swelling of the extremities. That's just wonderful. More products need to do that on the market.
Agreed.
But I love that you had said you gave different strategies for individuals with little to no income for marketing, and even going to looking on the website at your competitors, and as you said, the comments and all, and just walking around and listening, sitting in the mall or something like that. Do people still do that? I'm not even sure, but I'm aging myself now. But
since COVID, I don't know.
I know, really. Or even if you have a small storefront, if you're a small business owner that has a storefront, even putting like a comment box at the register.
Absolutely.
It's something simple as that.
I think it's so overlooked. But these small elements of engagement are so important. I always tell even prospective clients, people that maybe reach out to me, but they don't quite have the budget to start developing a really solid strategy. I tell them, you can start today. Today you can post. Today you can engage. Today you can learn. If you build the roadmap for the success that you want in 6 months, in a year, you will get there. But the process starts right now, because it takes time. It takes a lot of time. The reason why, from my experience, these companies were rushing and didn't have enough time to do the proper research is because they didn't do this research in the past, because the historical data is missing. Learn from other companies' mistakes. Started today. The first brand that comes to my mind that I think made the terrible mistake of not doing that social listening, and I think they learned today, but at the time they did not, was Victoria's Secret. The Victoria's Secret models. Yes. So Victoria's Secret, was on the forefront of really what quality, unique lingerie look like, right? What a woman's body should look like. And there was a huge backlash because it was so inaccessible. The sizes of the bras, the sizes of the underwear were very, very limited. They did not account for people of different body sizes or people that may have a different shape to their limbs, did not take into anybody into account. And when that conversation was raised to Victoria's Secret did not respond in a way that recognized the importance for diverse things.
For years.
What happened was for years. This was an ongoing conversation until a company called Aerie came into the market, and they had a phenomenal activation, and they developed a consistent brand awareness showing models with all body types that represent people that deal with medical experiences, people that may deal with difficulties in mobility, and they put everybody on the forefront of what it means to have a body, what it means to need certain products for your body, and they went viral. And today Victoria's Secret has revamped their strategy, but for a very long time they refused to listen to the end consumer. And as a result of that, they lost a lot of consumer credibility because other competitors came in and said, we're here for you. We hear you. We will support you. We will provide you the product you're looking for.
Oh man, that is such a wonderful example, actually. A wonderful example. It's inclusivity is key to sustainability of your brand and longevity of your brand, and you have to change with the times. You have to reinvent and always assess and get that data. And there's many different ways, as you said, to gather that data, do that research, and actually do something with those findings. And it's gonna take time.
So important.
It is.
It's so important to touch on that because there is a misunderstanding, I think, within certain industries of what it means to pinkwash or greenwash and pretend like you're showing that diversity and inclusion, the values that your consumer's looking for versus actually committing to them.
Exactly. I say walking the walk is instead of just talking the talk, you walk the walk.
Exactly. Do not wait for Pride Month to support the LGBTQIA plus community. That's not your support. That is you adapting a marketing strategy. And consumers today are even more aware than they were in the past. And they're even, I wouldn't say more aware, they're even more vocal than what they were in the past. And consumers today will call out if your company is pretending to show values versus actually showing values. So I will say this. I do believe that every company should be as inclusive as they can. I do believe that every product launch should be as inclusive as it can. I'll be realistic with you, Andrea. Not every product launch can be, but there are market launches and market strategies that companies can adapt in order to create that sense of inclusivity. That is why you have brands that have sub-brands to them, because they are including different markets. There are ways to approach this. So in my opinion, if you're not putting the effort, then you're not actually invested in reaching your community. Now, it may take more time for you to adapt to the market because you might want to be for a particular brand to a particular end consumer, and that is a legitimate structure. But if you're telling me that when you can cater to more audiences who are looking for your product and you turn away willingly and you're not willing to support them, I say that is a very honest reflection of your company values.
I agree. Your true company values.
Your true company values. Yes. What's off the website?
Exactly. Oh yeah, that's and I'm just going to reiterate, like, it just with marketing strategies, DEI initiatives in your organization take time. Nothing's quick. It's gonna, it takes time to get things changed and get people on board and trained. Yeah, it's almost like exercising. Nothing's overnight. It's going to take time to build that muscle.
I agree. And it's not everybody's going to be satisfied because people want to see results yesterday. I think that's also something I would say, in defense to companies that I do see that are trying to make changes, companies that I upfront have worked with that have advocated and evolved to making changes. It takes time. But what you need to do as a company is you need to share that communication strategy, right? You need to showcase to your end consumer that you are investing in making that change, and that will help you maintain their trust. It goes back to that communication you were talking about, Andrea. Show them that you're doing this, show them that you're committed, but vocalize that this is going to take time. And that's okay. If you could say that you're doing it, you're building trust. If you're showing the process, you're building trust. If you're not going to be transparent with your end consumer, they will be very aware of it very quickly. Very quickly.
Definitely. And admit when you make a mistake and then take it
please
steps to fix it. How can brands conduct cultural intelligence research to inform their brand strategy and ensure they resonate with diverse audiences?
That is a great question. I'm so glad you asked. The approach is really going to vary. And I like to vocalize that because I don't want people to feel like just because they're starting their company today, they should feel hopeless because they cannot do this. Every single person can integrate a process to create a more diverse and inclusive structure. So the first process, if you're starting new, if you don't have a budget, let's say the $0 budget strategy is to engage with consumers. If you're not engaging with consumers that are in your company because you're a new company, engage with consumers that have consumed similar products. Something that I mentioned a few minutes ago. You can go into social listening, look at Reddit, look at social media platforms. What are people saying? What are people asking? What kind of answers are they receiving? Where is the disconnect? From there, you can start engaging with people. I mean, you and I are both entrepreneurial in our engagement. Our responsibility is always to reach out to people. I'm sure that you've noticed that if you genuinely try to communicate with another person, show interest in them, not try to sell them anything, just show interest in who they are and their opinion, the chance that they're going to communicate with you is going to be very, very high. It is going to be very, very high. As an example, I do some fundamental strategies where I teach small businesses how to generate leads and to learn about their consumer, which is basically I teach them how to draft messages to Instagram followers, to LinkedIn followers, and the return on their engagement is about 75%, where people are willing to respond. Now, they're not selling, but that's not the purpose of this engagement. They're just learning. So this is the first stage, learn your audience. If you are in a position where you've already learned your audience from that interpersonal communication and you have data, start using that data to reach out to your personal end consumers. So if your company already started selling, connect with the people that have already purchased from you, understand their feedback and their perspective on their experience. Communicate in a way that might have to incentivize them. If you have to give them a discount, give them a discount. Free product, give them a free product. Get them to talk to you in a way that they'll give you that feedback. Now, different brands have different ways of approaching this. Some people will say, if I just tell them, give me feedback, they're going to give me anything. I mean, we've all been in a place where we had to give a survey and it's the end of the day, just 10, 10, 10, 10, 10.
Five,
we loved
it.
Fantastic. Or 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Never again.
And they don't do the additional comments.
Yeah. Even though it's required somehow. But that goes back to if you want to get that engagement, number one, start today. Don't wait 6 months from now once you have 100, 200, 300 buyers to then start asking questions. Start today. As soon as a person purchases a product, ask them for feedback. After they give you feedback, after a few weeks or a few months, depending on what that product or service is, check in with them, connect with them, learn about where they are, then incentivize them to give you whatever perspective that they have. If you don't rush into asking for something, you are going to get a response. So that would be phase 2, right? We already have sales. You're maybe in a low budget place where you still need to push for that personable communication. Now, phase 3, I would say, is everything that you just did. So you already reached out to people, you already engaged with your buyers, but now you have different programs that you can use to research what the market is looking for. And that is really going to depend on what your company budget is. But the moment that you can invest in learning about market trends, building data on your own, looking at whatever resources you have, like Mintle, like Susie, you will be able to connect the dots between what people are telling you and what is ongoing into the market. Now, I'm going to say that in very unique situations, you'll have people like Gary V, who's phenomenal at just feeling the market, understanding what the market wants. That's not everybody. I say if you're starting out and you're building yourself up, don't rely just on your intuition. That's, I think, a huge mistake that that will limit the results. Invest in learning about the people. It's a humbling process, but assume that when you are going into the market, that you have something to learn, that you have something to improve. And if you come in with that mindset of, I'm genuinely trying to be a better version, provide a better experience for you, you are going to receive a positive result from your consumer. But remember, your consumer doesn't owe you anything, especially if they have a terrible experience. So that interaction that you give them is very, very critical. There is a rule. I know this is a tangent, but I was just reading about this. It's called the 7-11-4 rule. It's a rule about how much time it takes, how many touch points it takes to engage for a consumer to purchase a product. It's a rule that Google did, is based on research, and it's 7-11-4. 7 is 7 hours. It takes about 7 hours for interaction for you to feel like you might be interested in that product and maybe buy it. That's a lot of time. So that means that your interactions need to be consistently intentional and positive in order for that consumer to be interested in engaging with you. But that would be the breakdown, Andrea, that I would approach for a brand to do the research.
I just love how thorough your answers are and how you give so many different examples. It just, as I said, it just shows your passion for this and
I love it.
your knowledge of this and the successes of successful marketing strategies and not so successful marketing strategies, and especially when it comes to being inclusive. Man, I love this. So actually, I'm going to skip to the last question because I want to make sure we have time to wrap up. How do you recommend businesses measure the inclusivity of their marketing efforts, and what metrics should they consider?
How do they measure? Again, I hate to be a broken record, but it does have to do with the resources that you have. I would say, starting off, if you are building your product and you're in your initial phases, pay attention to who the consumer is that's purchasing your product. Now, you do that from two ways. One is through the manner that they engage with you, right? Who is the consumer that's reaching out to learn about the product? Who's the consumer that is going through the purchasing process? And then who is the person that's reaching out to just understand more about your company? So pre-purchase, but those will give you perspectives. The more you learn about the person that's reaching out to you, which is why sometimes contact forms are unreasonably long, the better understanding you'll have on how to measure who you're reaching today organically. Once you have that data, you start crafting paid ad strategies, and paid ad strategies across the board are critical, even if you're in a low funnel where you're just building your basics. But the moment that you start testing the consumers that you're reaching and then tracking how those tests are going to conversions, you start to see, okay, when I create X audience, this is my conversion. When I create Y audience, this is my conversion. This is what I'm seeing is attracting certain individuals. And then you have to ask yourself, are you seeing diversity in that consumer? Are you seeing inclusivity in that engagement? And then the last part of that process for that phase 2 would be the survey that you would hopefully send out to your customer, or that review that you're reaching out to the customer to provide you, because that insight is then going to tell you, I reached X audience and this was their experience. I reached Y audience and this was their experience. So it's slow building, gathering that data, and
the ROI.
The ROI, exactly. So the ambition is that once you go through this process of gathering the data, looking at the ROI on your investment, and your ROI is going to be your time. If it's paid ads, it's going to be whatever KPIs you mapped out. It's going to go against your revenue goals. Once you look at those, then you could see how you're measuring your success from a diversity inclusion standpoint, and how that success is driving the growth of your company. Because I will be very blunt, I think that people who are going to make a change in the company want to know that it's going to benefit the growth of the company. So there have to be certain ROIs set up and certain KPIs that are consistently tracked to understand those goals. Now, if you are creating a product and that product sells well, but it's selling well to a very small market, then you have to still go back and try to reach the other markets. How do you do that? You reach again to your customers, you go back to your research and look at different products that are reaching those markets that you're looking for, and understand how are they serving those markets differently. How are the consumers reacting to those products? So that's to say that even if you are successful today as a business, you're hitting your revenue goals, you are growing, that doesn't necessarily mean you're demonstrating diversity. I don't think you should compromise your growth by undermining that product, but I do think you need to look at what else you could add to make it more inclusive. Don't prevent your company from growing, but see what else you could add. Maybe it's another product that's specifically going to cater to that audience. Maybe it's another way of showing that product so it's inclusive by language, by packaging. There are different things that you can play with, but I think it's really important to drive that point where there is an opportunity, even if you're successful, to improve your company. And even if you're reaching those goals, you might be failing in your diversity and inclusion. And that is a very big problem, because at the end of the day, that is a value that is always going to bubble up in your industry. Doesn't matter what industry it is. The principles of diversity and inclusion are always going to come up. And if you are not advocating for it today, yay. If you're not advocating for that, you are going to be 20 steps behind your competitor who is. So don't just look at what the money is. Don't just track the KPIs for that end goal. Look at the audience that you're reaching, the consumer values that you're providing, and where you can continue to improve.
I agree. And that's why it's so important to look at the changing demographics in your where you are marketing your products and selling your products, and the needs of those communities, and surveying and getting that data in many different ways that you can get that data. But it's you always have to have the future goal in mind, and it's always going to be a future goal, because the future is always going to be in the future, and because times change, things are constantly changing. The landscape, the demographic population is constantly changing, and if you want to expand into other countries, if you haven't at this point, like if you're growing your business and as you want to take it global, if you've already sort of worked with a sect of that population in your own country, you have a little bit better of an idea of what the demographics of whatever country it may be might need. It's not going to be 100% correlated, because cultures are a little different still, but it's important to do that research, and even go into the country beforehand and do that research. But it's
100%.
Yeah, you always have to have that future goal in mind. But I want to be cognizant of your time. Thank you so much, Sharon, for being our guest today. So do you? I'm going to give some key takeaways to our listeners here, and then some possible next steps for our listeners, and then ask you if you have any add-ons. But before I do that, how can and our listeners get a hold of you if they're interested in having you as the speaker on their podcast, or at a marketing conference, or if they're interested in hiring you for your services?
Amazing. So I have a website. It's called the businessbuildingblocks.com. That is the name of the company. Also, people are welcome to reach out to me on Instagram. I have my own entrepreneurial profile, which is Sharon Bushy Official. I'm happy to connect. If I get an email or an Instagram, I check them all the time. And then from there, I can continue the conversation.
Sounds good. And listeners, I will be putting Sharon's, and I apologize, it is Sharon or Sharon? Sharon.
It is Sharon.
I am so sorry. I should have. Where is my DEI brain? I should have asked you before the podcast began. Oh my goodness, listeners, do not do what I just did. Ask someone how to pronounce their name. Do not assume it's pronounced a certain way. So Sharon, I will be putting Sharon's contact information on one of the last slides of today's video podcast when it is, and it will be released on May 16th, 2024. I will also be putting her information in the summary of the podcast as well. So let's talk about some key takeaways, listeners. So we talked about inclusive product development with Sharon. We explored methodologies for designing products that cater to diverse customer bases, ensuring accessibility, usability, and satisfaction for individuals from various backgrounds and abilities. We talked about equitable marketing representation. We discussed the importance of authentic representation in marketing materials and strategies for showcasing diversity to resonate with consumers and empower underrepresented populations. We talked about cultural intelligence in brand strategy. We examined the role of cultural intelligence in brand strategy, emphasizing the need for thorough research to understand different cultural contexts and avoid stereotypes or cultural appropriation. We talked about diversity-driven innovation. We highlighted the benefits of diversity. We highlighted the benefits of diversity in fostering innovation, particularly in product launches, by drawing from a variety of perspectives to identify marketing gaps and develop creative solutions. We talked about equity in go-to-market strategies. We explored equitable go-to-market strategies that ensure products are accessible to all segments of the population, promoting inclusivity and addressing the needs of diverse communities. And we talked about inclusion metrics in marketing analytics. We addressed the importance of establishing metrics and KPIs and KPIs to measure inclusion in marketing efforts, enabling businesses to assess the impact of their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Possible next steps for listeners: conduct a diversity audit of your product development and marketing strategies to identify areas for improvement. Implement inclusive design principles in product development processes to ensure accessibility and usability for all customers. Diversify your marketing content to authentically represent the diversity of your target audience and empower underrepresented communities. Invest in cultural intelligence training and DEI training for your team to enhance their understanding of diverse cultural contexts and perspectives, and develop metrics to track the inclusivity of your marketing efforts and use data to inform future diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Do you have any other possible next steps that you can think of, Sharon, for our listeners today?
I think you hit the nail on the hammer on the nail. You hit something. It hit it. You nailed it.
Yeah, thank you.
That's how you know
I can't remember the expression. Hit the nail on
the nail with the hammer. No,
the nail on the head. The nail on the head.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Oh goodness. I think you did nail it. I have no further comments. That's perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sharon, for being our guest today. And you are welcome back anytime. I really enjoyed this conversation. You are so passionate about marketing and inclusive marketing, and it shows in your demeanor on the podcast and your answers. They were so thorough, and I really think our listeners have gained a lot of wonderful, useful information that they can take back to their organizations or for their own businesses if they are entrepreneurs or solopreneurs. So thank you so much for being our guest today, Sharon. And
thank
listeners,
you for the opportunity.
You are very welcome. And listeners, stay tuned for our next podcast. Remember, our podcasts are dropped every Thursday p.m. at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Talk to you later. Stay diversifused. A guest speaker on the Get Diversifused podcast, I'm on the lookout for guests. So if you're passionate about DEI and would like to share your unique insights, experiences, or success stories, I want to hear from you. If you're a fellow podcaster who's passionate about DEI, let's swap the mic and amplify each other's voices. If you're interested in being a guest, reach out to me at Andrea@Diversifuse.com and I'll send you the link to our best interest form. Hope to hear from you soon. Remember, stay Diversifused. Now go out there and make a difference. And as always, for more strategies on building inclusive workplaces and communities, check out Diversifuse. We're here to guide you on your DEI journey. Make sure to visit our website at Diversifuse.com and follow us on social media for the latest happenings, blog posts, tips, and events.